Welcome back to Life and Art with Nicole, and I'm your host, Nicole. I'm very excited because today I am joined by a very special guest, Silvia Mathis. Silvia is an actress, producer, and director, and she and I have actually been in a play together. So I'm very excited to have you on the show, Silvia, and to our audience, stay tuned. We're going to have a great episode coming up, and we'll be right back. Yeah, so I'm so happy to have you, Silvia. How are you?
I am amazing. And so this is my little geek self is going to come out. I am so happy to see you.
I know. I was so excited. I was looking forward to this episode. I was like, oh my gosh, I get to
Oh
see
my
Silvia.
gosh.
I haven't seen you in so long.
I kept checking my calendar, going, okay, it's not tomorrow. It's not, I kept checking because I'm genuinely, I love you. I
Oh,
haven't seen you in so long. And it just, yeah, I mean, social is cool and seeing you do your thing is amazing. But we'll get into all this later, but I just think you are spectacular. And I'm really honored and excited to be here.
oh, thank you. I'm so excited to have you as well because, just with socials, I've been following you and it looks like you just have so many exciting projects that you've been working on. And I'm so excited to find out like what you've done in the past because I guess it's been what, like five years since
Can
we've
you
seen each other?
even? Can you even? It seems like yesterday, but
Yeah.
it also seems like it's been a while, which is weird, you know? But
Right.
yeah, it just like when I was looking at some media from the project that we did, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, wow, that was like 5 years ago. That's
Yeah.
great.
And that, so to the audience, we Sylvia and I were in a play called Unshame on You. And it was a play that followed the storylines of three different women. And I guess they were neighbors, right? Were they supposed to be
Yeah,
neighbors?
I
Yeah.
think,
And
don't start me telling tales, but I think they were neighbors. Do you know what I mean? Like in a building kind of situation.
yeah, maybe because the way the stage was set up, it was like our houses were next to each other and we all were individually going through our thing. And yeah, that to me was, I'm not sure if it was for you, but for me it was such a transformative play to be a part of, not only getting to work with such amazing cast members, but just like the storyline for my particular character really touched me. And I know you had a really deep storyline as well. So, I mean, how
Yeah.
was your experience
It,
in that?
It was intense. I mean, you and I've talked about the fact that we both kind of like to go deep, and I sort of, I have my little thing. I'm like, okay, I know there's a net, and so I don't care. Like, let's just jump and see what happens. But my character's name was Ren, and she definitely had, some issues that she was working through. But for me, yeah, the when you said that, just right before you said transformative, that's the word I heard in my head. It
Wow.
was transformative. I mean, for heaven's sake, I had a 17 and a half minute monologue.
Wow. I know mine was really long too, but yours was
Yours was
really long.
so long.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was crazy. And it was one of those things where if someone had said to me, you're going to have a 17-minute monologue in this play, I'd have been like, what?
Yeah.
But just kind of doing it and not knowing, I didn't even really know it was that long. My husband taped it during rehearsal one night. But all that to say, like all of the things that she went through in that one monologue was just, and for me, it kind of mirrored the trajectory of all three of our characters in the play.
Yeah.
Starting in this sort of like place of survival, kind of, not overcoming, but survival. And then going to like the intensity of I'm losing my mind and I can't handle, I can't even do this one more second. And then sort of uncovering layer by layer, not like a banana, but like an onion, peeling back all those layers. And it was a pleasure to watch you do that every single performance, and even every rehearsal. Just watching you do what you do was really, it was like a master class. It was beautiful to watch you work. And honestly, I mean, everyone was really strong in this play. Everybody was very strong, but there was something about the way you approach character and the way you approached everything that you were doing in your prep and all of that just was very, I felt a kinship
Oh,
with
yeah.
and it was really amazing. But yes, it was definitely transformative, and it was raw, right?
Mhm.
It was so naked. It was
Yes.
just,
I know. I'm so surprised. Like, I didn't realize that, like the same as you, I didn't realize that the monologues would be as long as they were. Because it was like, obviously learning it, it was page after page after page. And I was like, okay,
right.
I was like, I don't know if I could do this. And obviously, like with the process, it was
Yeah,
like, it was definitely a learning process. I mean, I
yeah,
love that you just said masterclass, because that's exactly what it was. Like, I feel like at the beginning of our rehearsals, and just, yeah, the fact that it was just nothing, and then we built it into this super raw, super emotional, really deep message that each of the characters went through and did transform, like throughout the play, was amazing. And it was almost like a class. And yeah, for me, that my character, just like yours, the arcs through that monologue, and the different levels, or the different areas of emotion that we had to each get into throughout. It was like crying and then laughing, and then all within that 10, 15, 17
mhm,
minute
yeah.
on stage by ourselves with the audience watching.
Oh, 100, like by ourselves. And what was funny is that, um, I mean, I don't know if you're gonna have to put a trigger warning on this particular episode, but the topics that we addressed, mental health,
Mhm.
abuse,
Yeah.
addiction, all of those things were and I thought that the writer, I thought she handled all of that really, really well. That she came with such, you could tell it was personal. You could tell that it was authentic. This was an authentic story. You know what I mean? And I was kind of doing, I mean, I was doing double duty, but I was only doing double duty in rehearsal. Like, to me, my focus was my character, but I was asked to kind of help with the format, with the show, like the whole show. And it actually helped me, because where I might have been very, very focused on what I was doing, and very, very focused on what I was doing with, in this case, my husband, who played my husband in the play, this allowed me to sort of get a sense of the totality of what was happening, and almost really get more of a sense of how everything sort of was weaving in and out of, our stories were sort of in and out of each other. You know what I mean? And that was very helpful for me, as I was constructing character and trying to find out what Ren wanted to say,
Yeah.
because anyway, okay, we're starting to talk about process. I don't know if you want to go there yet,
Yeah,
but
sure, of course.
I was trained very heavily in method, so we're talking like Uta Hagen and Stanislavski, that whole thing. And but I let that go. Probably I would say when I booked my first guest star role on a television show, I was still kind of in that space, but I met a coach whose name is Ken Farmer, and he started to work with me on something called acting and storytelling. The long and short of it is, he started to help me understand that, yes, the method is a thing, and I'm not here to slam the method for anybody who loves it and uses it, because I did for years. But for me, allowing myself to vacate the premises and not really digging into my sense memory, or like Sylvia's emotional recall, or any of that, but allowing my character to say and do and feel what she felt. So, and it became very, very handy, because we did have to go so deep, right? And there was no take two. It was what it was.
Mm.
And so how do you do that over and over and over again without it damaging you, and you like ending up on the floor in a big ball? And Ken helped me understand how to do that, because it had nothing to do with me. Ren was literally borrowing my body and my face and my eyes and me. And then when she was finished using me, she left, and I was fine, because it wasn't about me.
Yeah.
And for me, it completely shifts the way I approach a role. It even affects the way I write, when I'm working on screenplays, because I'm allowing like the character to tell their story, because it's not about, really, for me, my process is not about me, the actor. It's about the character and what they're trying to do and what they're trying to say. So it is so liberating, because you can just kind of go wherever without having that, being so self-aware that you're in your head. And that really helped me. That was, somebody asked me, I don't remember who it was, And I've been asked this before, how can you like do that over and over and over again? And I'm sure you get asked this too. For me, it is because when I'm finished, I leave her there. And then I just can go back and I don't have to like sort of sit in the corner and like emote and stir it up, because I've spent the time. And I think this is the key for me anyway, is spending the time to give her a birthday. I mean, obviously, if you get a script and you already know all that, that's great. But a lot of times we don't, because this is the first time this has been done, this character, whomever it is. And so give her a birthday. She fell out of a tree when she was 7 and she has a scar on her leg, or, what is her sign, or what's her favorite color, or, who broke her heart and how old was she when she had her heart broken the first time, giving her all of these sort of memories and putting all these tools in her bag, and creating all those things that got her to the point where I met her. So I gave her a history. But what happens is I do all of that, and I have all of that in my toolbox until it's time to get on stage and get in the moment. And then I just throw all that away. But it's in me now. Yeah. It's in it. She's like merged into me now. And so now she's tapping into her own emotions and her own memories and her own struggles and her own that have nothing to do with Silvia. Wow. And for me, it's almost like spiritual. It's like if you talk about like the Holy Spirit, or if you talk about God and the way God is present in us, the power of God flowing through us is really doing the work. We're just like the vessel. And that's how I approach what I do as an actress.
That is amazing. And the last part you just said, I was thinking that as you said, you give these characters a birthday, you give her, the scar who broke their heart. It's almost like molding this invisible, being, and then that's empty. And then we sort of step into, or you in this case, step into that and sort of act it out for people to see it visually. It's like literally bringing something to life. And that is very spiritual, and I love that you just mentioned that too, because, some of the episodes that I've been with this podcast, and really kind of the path that I want to go on with what I am talking about in different episodes, is really highlighting the fact that art and creativity comes from it is spiritual, and we all are creative beings, and we all are vessels for creativity from the beyond to sort of flow through. And I think that as what you just described as an actor, as a writer, it's like we have been able to tap into that extra essence that we've all been given and create like the true sense of creativity, like literally bringing something out of nothing. It's amazing. I love that, what you just said.
It's also fun. I think for me, it makes it a lot more fun, because if I have to go into Silvia's history and Silvia's pain memories and Silvia's pain body and dig around and stir all that up over and over and over and over and over again, whether it's a long run of a play or a long period of rehearsal, or even in a film, in film or television, if I got to keep tapping into that, that it can be emotionally damaging. It can be very difficult. And I think that's why a lot of people who go in that space in that way have struggles outside, because it's hard to let that go. When you go, if I'm going to remember, if I need to remember that my little puppy got hit by a car when I was, in 4th grade, and I found him lying in the street bleeding, every single time I need to cry about something that has nothing to do with that moment, it also very much then becomes about me. And the liberating part for me, the most liberating part, Nicole, for really is letting go of me.
Yeah. Wow.
Just completely letting go of anything to do with me, so that I am, as Michelle Obama would say, I am becoming.
Yes.
And my mom used to say, when I would, wear something that I thought was cute, and she would say, "Oh, that doesn't become you." Oh, what does that mean, right? Or it becomes you, right? And so that's, for me, that's what that is. And I know you were about to say something. I'm sorry. There was one more like personal example. I was on set on this project I told you about before, like my first time in a guest role, and the director walked up to me, because my character was upset about some things to do with her life and her father and all that. So he walked up to me and said, "Your father would be very proud of you right now." Well, my father had passed away. Not maybe at that time, I think it was about 10 years earlier. And my father was a construction worker. Well, he owned a construction company. This character's dad was a construction worker who died on a construction site. And she used to go to his sites with him, and I used to go to my dad's with him. There's actually a story that I recall very clearly. I came home from college just randomly. See, talking about spirit connecting. I was going to college in Chicago. This, I promise you, this is connected. I was going to college in Chicago. I was going to Roosevelt University. And all of a sudden, this Friday, I woke up and I heard, go home. Go home. I don't want to go home. It's the weekend. I want to go home. Okay. So I get in the car, drive home. I go straight to the house. Mom, where's Dad? And she said, oh, he's on the site. I went, okay, I'm going to go see him. You want to go? She's like, yeah, I'll go. So we go to the site. He's up on scaffolding, if you know, the things that builders climb on to get to the, yeah. So he's up maybe 20, 25 feet up, and he can't move because he's had a stroke, a mild stroke, up on the scaffolding, and he's by himself.
Oh my.
Couldn't. So I crawled up the scaffolding and I got him and I put him on and my father was a big guy, but this was one of those supernatural things, right? And I came back down the scaffolding with my father on my back. Wow. And he wasn't completely, paralyzed. He was just stuck, like his brain just stopped. And then he came back down. And as he was coming down, I could feel him starting to move and everything again. And he went to the hospital and he was, fine after that. But it was one of those weird moments where there was no one called me and said, go, my mom had no idea. It was one of those weird moments. All of that to say was this director knew about that. So as my character was having this meltdown moment, he comes to me and says, your father would be very proud of you. And I remember thinking to myself, as weird as you might think, oh, I bet that just made you go deep and just melt down. What it did was it made me very conscious of me, immediately made me conscious of me.
It took you out of the character.
Yeah, but I did it, right? But to kind of go back and think about all the dad stuff that had nothing to do with it was just weird for me. And that was the moment. That was why I sought out something else. And that's how I found Ken Farmer, because I was like, there's got to be something else. Because the moment went from feeling organically true to being something I was trying to conjure up that belonged to me and not my character.
Wow.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, it's weird.
I like that. And I'm actually glad you're talking about this, because I'm like, I'm going to start like kind of implementing like that type of those tools in a sense to kind of divorce myself from the character, because I know that one thing that I tend to do is I don't necessarily bring myself, but it's like I'm conscious of my spirit or my energy within the character. And I do like the idea of keeping it separate, because it can be really damaging if you are continuously accessing trauma from the past to I fortunately don't do that. I'll just like think of myself like at a time when I'm sad, but even still, I think that's still a little too me, and not the character. So I like that, that concept of keeping yourself separate,
Yeah, it's a process. Most of the work is done up front.
Yeah.
So that, you know what I mean? It does require more work up front. And then when you get in it, you don't really need it anymore. It's just there.
Yeah, it is just there. Also, I mean, because, like you just said, it is damaging. And, people like Marilyn, one of the most famous people who kind of fell victim to getting caught in the method trap would be Marilyn Monroe. She had her coach. I don't know who was she training under?
Buddha was her coach.
Oh, wow.
And was her actual on set. Like she was really in it.
Yeah. And didn't she say like, feel the pain and the trauma, and then she got stuck in that mode for a long time.
Yeah, it's very. I mean, I think that it's twofold. So there are a couple of things that work there. I think when you are deep in it like that, and I remember my coach Ken told me one time, because he's a character actor who's worked with so many people, and he's one of those guys whose face you know but name you won't know. He's got like 8 billion credits on IMDb because he's an actor. But he he told us the story of I think it was, in this case, I think we were talking about either Robert De Niro or Al Pacino, who at that time were very much into Inside the Actor Studio and that whole thing. And the story was Sir Laurence Olivier was doing a play with one of them when they were very young, and they like didn't bathe for a week and being on the street and like doing all this stuff.
Yeah, wasn't it Dustin Hoffman? Was it Dustin
I think
Hoffman?
it was Dustin Hoffman, yeah. And he's like,
Or maybe Al Pacino. Yeah, one of them. Yeah.
yeah. But it was one of those like really amazing actors who, very young, was just like, going in that moment. And he was like, dude, like take a shower. You know what I'm saying? But as a young actor, I think there's a certain amount of safety in being able to conjure these things based on this way of being an actor that is so common and so accepted. And so you kind of feel like, you're trying to get to the truth, and you're trying to get to the truth of the moment. And this is how you do it. So I'm going to do this because it feels heavy and hard and weighty. And it just feels very, feels like you're doing stuff, it just feels important. And, but it also, the other side of it is it brings all the focus to you. When you show up to rehearsal and you haven't bathed for a week, or when you show up and don't talk to me because I'm in, right? Or all of that stuff, it's kind of like, it's all the focus is then on you. It's almost like thespian theatrical masturbation, because it's really just all about you feelings, you know what I mean? And everybody else gets to watch. And it's so, and again, people have turned out some amazing performances doing that. So I'm definitely not, you got to do what works for you. I feel very blessed to have found something or attracted something into my space that not only works for me, but I remember hearing a story Robert Redford was saying. People were like, he can literally be like drinking a soda and like telling jokes, and the second the light goes on, he's in. And people are like, how do you do that? That's how you do that, because it's not about him.
Yeah, you're telling the story of someone else. Yeah,
exactly. And you can do that over and over and over again. And it might be physically taxing, particularly if you have to like cough over and over again or something like that. But it still doesn't do to your mind and your spirit. It doesn't drain it in that way where you need a week and a half to recover. And just from a producer perspective, I don't need the actors to need a week and a half to recover.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd heard Penelope Cruz, and I think I'd actually mentioned this in a previous episode, but Penelope Cruz said that after Vicky Cristina Barcelona, she won the Academy Award for that. She said it took her months to get out of that character, because she was so, she was wearing the perfume of like this character that she created and everything. And it was so ingrained in her that it took her like way too long to get out. She had to see a therapist. Yeah.
Oh my, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But again, I don't think that's an uncommon story. And it certainly makes for good, conversation to talk about that. And I'm also not saying that even with this way of working that I have been using for all these years, that there would never be a time when something taps into me in a way that challenges my psyche. Yeah. But what I have is tools to release it. That's where my affirmative prayer, my meditation, my EFT, my tapping, which is probably the most active way that I clear my energy and clear my space, so that I can get up the next day and, be mom and be wife and be a person in the world, Yeah.
Absolutely. So how did you, I don't think I ever asked you this, how did you get into acting? Like, was it always in you as a child, or was it something that you gravitated to like later in life, or?
No, actually, I started as a model pretty young, about 12 years old, and started doing like runway and that kind of thing. And then I thought I was going to be, my dad wanted me to be a brain surgeon or a lawyer. And so in my head, I was kind of focused on that kind of trajectory, like going into something academic. And I did not know that I could sing. So I discovered that I could sing when I was 12. But the kind of voice I discovered I had was this like 5-octave operatic thing, which I didn't want. All my friends, sounded like Stacey Lattisaw and like, had all the cute pop voice, and that wasn't my thing. But I ended up auditioning for a Latin operetta called Noah's Flood. And God is my witness, this is exactly what happened. All of us went down to the school to this place, Mendelssohn Club, to audition. And all of my friends were getting cast. Bobby and Sarah, you're going to be Mouse. Johnny and Alexander, you're going to be giraffe. And they went through all the animals for Noah's Ark. And I'm just standing there with my mom. And I was like, I was so sad because all my friends got picked. And it's like this room where they're calling people and they're going. And so they come over to my mom and they say, and my mom's like, she's very upset. And I was like, I was so sad. Oh, you're in the play. Oh, I was one of the leads.
Wow.
Well, the
Wow.
youngest person was 18. I only say that to say that was the moment when I went, oh, wait a second. This might be a thing I can do. Right. And so I did that. And then I auditioned for Performing Arts High School and I made it. And so when that happened, my whole high school thing was very much like the television show Fame. It very much was that. And so that's how it all kind of just became everything I thought about, everything I wanted to do, everything I wanted to be. But I always thought it would be theater, musical theater. Never in a million lifetimes did I even consider film or television. I didn't care about film and television. For me, it was all about really musicals because I'm a singer. And so I thought the only reason I get parts is because I can sing, not because I can act. I didn't know I could act. And then I got cast in my first straight play in that school. And I thought, oh, okay. And it just grew from there. Now, rewind, I started producing when I was about 9 years old. My friend Linda and I used to get all the kids together in the neighborhood and I would write the stories and she would edit and we'd go back and forth and then she would direct and I would produce and we'd do this whole thing and we'd charge a quarter for everybody in the neighborhood to come and see our shows. I'm so serious. And we would split it up between all the kids who were in the show and we'd go get ice cream or go get whatever. And then we started to build our little film fund. We take part of it and we give everybody a treat. And then we take our film fund and save it so we could get like maybe have better sets next time or have better costumes or yeah. And so that was there. But again, I was putting everyone else on stage. I was never in those. I was always putting them on stage. And again, and then so when that happened at 12, that changed everything. And then I started singing in the choir and doing all that kind of stuff. And it never occurred to me after that moment to do anything else. That it just, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. I love that too, because as I started writing when I was really young, so I would write little stories and my cousin and I would like dress up in my grandmother's like closet and costumes and stuff and put on the plays. But you have the business mindset to like get money.
Fun.
That's awesome. Wow. And so like so high school, I'm guessing, and then later in
yeah, I did after high school. So the idea was, am I gonna like audition for Juilliard or North Carolina School of the Arts or something like that? Which kind of was in my head, or my mom was like, you're a Howard girl, you need to go to Howard. But what I ended up doing, I didn't actually want to go to college, but in my family, it kind of wasn't optional. So I made this deal with my parents and I was like, listen, if I want to go, I'll go. But I don't know that I necessarily want to stay. Right. I want to go. They said, just give it a semester or whatever. So I ended up getting a music scholarship to the Chicago Conservatory of Music, but it wasn't for voice. It was for viola. I didn't even audition for voice.
Wow.
It was weird. And so I did that, but I didn't accept the scholarship. Instead, I went to Roosevelt University, which is basically a graduate school, but I went there because they had a music and theater like combo that I could do. And it just happened that my professor was a professional actor in Chicago and had been like in Risky Business and some other things, my theater professor. And so I had continued to act and do, summer theater and all the things and, all the things. Very active high school, pre-college life that I led. And then I auditioned for Children's Theater Company in Minneapolis. I guess I was 15. So that must have been like right before my junior year. And I made it. And so I went to their summer intensive in Minneapolis, which was amazing, and ended up going to New York to do a backers investors audition with this musical they were trying to get picked up for Broadway. So I got a chance to see all of that. Like at 15, I'm in New York and they're taking us out to Tavern on the Green and Sardi's and whatever. That was huge for me because Broadway was always like a thing that I saw, but it was out there. Do you know what I mean? And to actually be there and be around those people laid the groundwork for what happened later, which was I went to Roosevelt, did fine, did great. And after class one day, I'll never forget this. My acting coach asked me to stay after class. And I was like, and he goes, what do you want to do? And I told him, I want to do this. I'm an actor. He goes, do you want to teach? I mean, do you want to be like no. He said, okay, so you do what you want, and you may just want to get the degree, but there is nothing I'm going to teach you here that's going to make you a better actor and prepare you more for the business. You need to get out there and start doing it. And I was like, so I had the conversation with my parents. One thing led to another. I ended up going to New York to audition for a show called The Me Nobody Knows that had been on Broadway. And then the revival was back, and they were casting the off-Broadway beginning of the tour. 12th audition, the 12th callback, Nicole. They had already seen all the Broadway babies, right? And I not only did I get cast in it, but Rael Lamb, God rest his beautiful soul, was the choreographer. And I can't remember the music director's name. I'm so sorry. I think his name is Chris. They wrote new songs for me and created a new character in a play that had already been on Broadway.
Wow.
And that I was 17 when that happened. And that was the beginning of, okay, this is for real, right? And so I stayed out in New York and, worked out there for a while. Eventually went back to Illinois and continued. My mom got sick, and so I needed to be there to help my dad. And that sort of then led into the music part. I was one of the lead singers of this group called the Chicago Collectibles in Chicago, another like big, like 500 girls auditioned, and they picked 4 of us, and we did that. And again, one thing led to another. I got back into modeling, and it just kind of, and then I did a film, and then I did another film, you know what I mean? And then it sort of kind of took off. And it just kind of always, you're always like on the journey and discovering different facets of the business and the different facets of what you love. And yeah, so that's kind of how it all, yeah, kind of all happened.
That's amazing. Yeah. So like by the time we had worked on the play, you had this huge repertoire. I remember like looking you up and being like, whoa, who is this Silvia lady? She's got this like incredible resume of work. And so like okay, so before I'm shame on you because that was a great play, but what plays or even musicals or even, I guess TV or film did you do in that time that really kind of like
cemented this for me or launched it?
Yeah. What made it so that you were like, I mean, obviously your journey, what you just said, but was there a particular piece that you did that you felt?
There were a couple. I've been in this business for a long time, right? 30 years plus. But, well, you should be a bigger star or you should already be whatever. I got married. I had children, and that is not an excuse, but 2 of my children are neurodivergent.
Oh.
I have several friends who have neurodivergent children, autistic or whatever, but many of them had already become famous when their children were born. My babies were born I was 24 when my twins were born, and I had just been offered a role in a show called Divas. Well, they were actually at that time, I think the girls were 2 because I was pregnant with Christian, and that Sony was producing. And then Sony actually wanted to sign me musically as well. And I was working with Randy Jackson, not Michael's brother, but Randy Jackson from, people know him from American Idol, but I met him when he was playing bass from Mariah, because my husband at the time had just gotten a record deal over there with them. And I say all that to say, I've had many, many, many moments like that, where there have been, these big giant opportunities that would have caused me to leave my children, to leave them with someone, or to choose my career over them. And I just decided not to make that choice. And I'm not, again, no shade on anybody who's ever made any choice they've ever made, because life is life and it gives you what it gives you. But God has been so faithful. I am 100% not a believer in you only get one shot, or, this is your last shot. That's not a thing. The universe is limitless. As long as you're breathing, you've got another shot. You just do. And I'm an example of that. Again, auditioning for the Me Nobody Knows. What I didn't tell you is that I went out there. My parents scraped together the money to send me to New York to audition, not for that show, but for a movie of the week that I didn't book. And so I was devastated because my parents had scraped all this together to send me to New York by myself. And my aunt was letting me live with it. It was a whole thing. And I was just so down. And then I get a call. Hey, there's this thing, you can sing, right? They didn't even know. Like, go. And, that hurt moment led to this other giant moment that was life altering. I got a chance to work with Tisha Campbell in that play. One of my best friends in the world is a amazing artist named Tara Bennett Smith. I know her as Debbie. We met on that show. We're friends today. Wow. And she's an amazing, prolific producer. Again, that was pivotal, right? Pivotal may have been the word you were looking for. That was pivotal. And then after doing that show and all the things that happened and all the people I met after that, there were many musicals along the way that I, auditioned for. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to get it, but this, you have a dream role or a certain show you just want to do. Chorus Line for me was one of those shows. And so I went back home and I auditioned for Chorus Line. And I just thought I just tanked. I thought I just absolutely tanked. And so my parents, they said, we just go out. They just took me out to dinner. And it wasn't great. But this was before cell phones, before they were prominent. And I get home and I'm crying at dinner, and I get home and my grandmother is like, they've been calling you all night. I booked it. I booked Morales, but They couldn't reach me. And the director had to leave town. So the girl who would have been my understudy got that part. So for me, that was pivotal for me, not only because I booked it, but because it made me think about my mindset. You don't decide before you go to an audition, they're going to like me, they're going to hate me. I was terrible. I was amazing, because you just have to go in, do what you do, and let it go. It was a very early lesson that stuck with me and really served me, because what auditions are like. Yeah. You know what that is like, right? And it really served me. That was a pivotal moment. And then there were several. I got to play not a musical. What is it? A musical review with all of the shows that I wanted to sing the role of. Maria in West Side Story, Dina in Dreamgirls. I think we did something from The Wiz. I've done Anything Goes, and oh my gosh, I did Pearly. I was Ludi Bell in Pearly. Wow. And so there've just been so many wonderful roles like that for me, they were pivotal, because you go and you look at the thing, you go and the cast list is going to be put up, or someone's going to call you and tell you, you're just waiting, and you get the call, and it's just like so exciting. I think that from a television perspective, while I had already done commercials, national commercials, and sung jingles, started doing that when I was about 15. I auditioned for this show that I had never heard of, and I was living in Texas at the time. And my agent said, "You got this audition, and it's it's for a guest lead." And okay, so I went, I did it, and they said, she's too glamorous, or she's too pretty, or whatever, because this girl was and I got caught in the rain. I didn't have any makeup on. I was late. I was not in a good mood because all of that was happening. So I showed up stripped of all of the things that made them think I was not right for the role. And while I was not unkind, I wasn't the most friendly person before I went into the audition, because I felt like that moment would be true for the person I was auditioning for would have had moments where she would have felt like that, right? Yeah. And so I gave it to her, went into the audition, and I booked it. And it happened to be a guest star role on a show called Walker, Texas Ranger. Well, what happened after that was that role then became the seed for my pilot that we shot 3 months later for my spinoff called A Woman's Place. And so that was, for me, that was pretty pivotal for me as an artist, and also because of being a woman of color. Living in Texas, that was the first time they'd ever done that for someone who didn't live in LA. And that was, for me, that was transformative, not because of the guest star role, but because of what happened after and the pilot and all of that. And no, it didn't go, but I've shot like 9 pilots that didn't go. So it's not like, Pilots are pilots. They do what they do. along the way. There've just been so many moments like that, and I mean, even as a director, the first time I directed something that I felt like I didn't have the capacity to do, a big giant musical, and I was directing it. I hired everyone. I was a musical director, and it was a big church in Georgia that gave me a big budget to direct and produce this big giant Christmas musical. And I was just like, but it came out, it was great. And we sold out and everybody loved it. And yeah, so there've just been a lot of those, hurdles, but also just those beautiful moments that were personally rewarding and professionally rewarding. But there have been times throughout my career where I've had to make choices that I felt were better for my family, particularly my children. And I remember the kids told my mom at one, before she passed away, they said, no matter what we went through, as a family, because I was divorced from my first husband. And I used to joke about, I know what it's like to be on the red carpet, and I know what it's like to have like $5 to spread over all 4 of my children for a week. Like, I know how to do that, right? And they said, we always knew that our mom was going to be there. Like, we always knew that no matter what happened, our mom would always be there for us. And that, now that they're adults and young adults, that was important for me. It was important for them to have that stability, emotional and spiritual stability, even if the things around us were at times seemed at times unstable. So
I bet that's rewarding even for you as a mom, because you've been able to have your career and pursue your artistic path, but then also be there for your family and not feel like you've missed moments. And I think that a lot of people, and I just did an article for I guess an online magazine, and one of the questions they'd asked was, what are some of the struggles that you've encountered on your path? And for me, I was saying, it's so difficult because artists these days, like the world, as much as the world needs art and kind of absorbs art and has it in their life all the time, the world, in my opinion, or society, in my opinion, it's not built for artists. So we have to find that balance of pursuing our craft, pursuing our artistic, talents, and then balancing, having to pay our bills and having to raise our family. And that to me is the biggest struggle that artists have, no matter what your field is, because if you don't have, an abundance of financial, backing for you to be able to pursue these things, it's extremely difficult. And then also, if you don't have family support, it's difficult. So I've been fortunate. I know you've been fortunate in the sense where you can pursue your craft and then still have your family and balance that. But I'm sure for you, at least for me, it's been a struggle, because as much as I want to bring art to the world, it's like, okay, world, like helps, we got to support the artist, because.
No, exactly. I used to call it, because I'm a makeup artist, and that for me has been very useful skill set to have. And though I've done some work in film and television, and mostly my artistry was in theater. And so I started doing that very early in life, and started working for print and that kind of thing. And then the retail world of cosmetics, as an artist, as a trainer for several very prominent makeup lines, it became something that I was so identified with that people started to see me as a makeup artist first. But that was the thing that was financing my passion. You know what I mean? When I'm painting faces, or I'm beating faces, or I'm, a vendor for some skincare line or whatever, that was a thing that I was very blessed to be able to even do. Because, obviously we've all, well, not all of us, but a lot of people have been servers, because that's a more flexible job. And you can say, I can't come today because I have an audition or whatever it is, but that being able to, especially when I was a freelance makeup artist, I had flexibility, and that allowed me to do my auditions and do the other things. But what happened, to your point, and it's something that I think that people, maybe more now because of the strike, and they're getting more a sense of the humanity of who we are, rather than just the visual of us on screen or wherever, that these are actual human beings, like trying to live, like living every day and waking up and going to work every day. And not all of them are multimillionaires. And even the ones who are still have giant house payments and 5 cars or whatever it is, or just life to deal with. They got to support their lives. And I think the world is getting a sense of what happens when that all comes to a stop with no warning. It's just over. Like you know, what would it feel like to go to your job every day, and then sometime on Sunday you get a call, you're done.
Yeah.
Wait, I didn't, you're not fired. No, you're not fired. You're done. And of course, people who've been on strike, they understand what that is. My mom was a teacher. So I went through a couple of strikes with her, and it's not easy. But to your point, there's so much required to be able to support the art.
Yeah.
And I was listening to, I'll share this with you later, but Ryan Gosling did the cutest thing. He was being interviewed by someone, and he literally broke down what it's like. I may have sent this to you yesterday, but he broke down what it's like to go to an audition. And what he said was, I don't know if I'll get it exactly right, but it was coming off of what he just did, right? This giant movie he just did, right? You go to the audition and you get there and you see, as he said, 8 other guys, 9 other guys who look just like you.
Yeah.
And, oh, you're not the only one that wore the cowboy hat. Okay, so they wore the cowboy hat too. And then you can hear the other guy in the audition room doing his audition. And now you're hearing the way he's doing it. Instead of thinking about the way you were going to do it, now you're thinking about not doing it the way he did it. And then if you listen a little closer, oh, you hear them doing the deal. They're like actually making the deal for the actor who just booked the part that you're there to audition for, that role you're auditioning for. And he made a joke. He said, so Jared Leto just got the part, but I'm still here. Okay. So he said, now you decide, I'm just going to make this an acting exercise. I know I'm not going to get the part, but I'm going to make it an acting exercise. So you go in, you do the audition, and there's this moment where you have to go deep and cry because like your friend died or whatever in the story. And you go there and you find the tears and you're in the moment, and the casting director gets a phone call and she asks you to just hang on. She'll be right back. And she leaves you there in it, in the moment, but it takes like 10 minutes and you're trying to hold on to it, but you can't. And then you lose it and then come back, and she comes back in and goes, okay. And then you want to just start over. So no, pick it up from where you left off. So now you got to go back in and try to find that deep moment that you searched for, and you don't find it, and it is what it is, and you finish it, and then you leave and you got a parking ticket because somebody decided to put audition here over the no parking sign, right? And he said that we're all, and he was talking about LA, but I would submit that actors around the world understand that sort of swinging at windmills, or whatever that term is, shooting at windmills, the term that describes kind of the dreamer, right? And the person who has it, you've got this thing in you and you can't shake it. And I know for me, there have been times when it was really hard, where I was just like, I don't want this anymore. I want to stop wanting this.
I've gone through that so many times.
Yes, I don't even want to want this anymore. But there's so many of us. Not just the 160,000 that are in SAG, but there's so many people who aren't even in a union. They're not in Actors Equity or anything, but they're these artists and they have this dream, and this dream that is, 100% impossible. And the odds of you making it are like none. There's like no odds of you.
Yeah.
The thing that I found most exciting about what Ryan shared was how many times he shifted his mind.
Yeah. Wow.
He had to keep adjusting his mind.
Yeah.
Because at any point he could have said, forget this, and he could have left, but he didn't. He just kept shifting his mind and kept shifting his mind. And then you get in the car and you change clothes and gear up for the next one. And all of that is amazing. But here's the kicker. That's for an actor who actually has an agent.
Yeah. That's for an actor that's already in like A-list, He's an A-list.
Or even if they're not in A-list, but they at least have a rep who can get them an audition.
Yeah, right.
Even getting that is, and I'm one of those weird, my agent is like, okay, we're trying to get you to offer only. And, that's great. Offer only is fine. Of course, everybody wants that. But I love auditioning.
Yeah, I love auditioning as well. Yeah. I love it. And especially when you get that really amazing role, and it's like 7 pages long, and like the character is like a, supporting character, or like whatever, guest star, co-star, whatever, and you're like, oh my gosh, and you get to do it. And especially if you have, like, for myself, I'm really fortunate to have like other actors in the area that can like come and that, are just incredible to work with. So we just play at this point because we're like, you know what, that's all, this is what we do it for anyway, right? So let's just play around, nail the audition, send it in, because these are digital auditions, obviously. But
Of course. We're
yeah,
also,
nowadays.
you've done some gorgeous roles too. Like, I wasn't kidding. I've been following.
Oh.
I have. You've been, oh my gosh, the work that you're doing. You've had such really amazing, meaty, really just very kind of varied parts too.
Yeah, they have been
Not like
very.
in any sort of box. And that's
Yeah,
really, I'm very
yeah,
proud that I know.
it's so fun, and I love that I've been able to get those types of roles and not get like stereotyped or typecast or anything like that. I think I maybe broke out of that like pretty girl box like a long time ago when I just like you go to the audition with like the makeup coming down your face and they get to see the real you. I think they're like, oh, okay, she can do a little
But
bit more.
you are stunning.
Oh.
Show up like no makeup, nothing. You are just beautiful. But
Oh.
what happens, and what I watched happen even when I was watching you work live, was that you strip that away. You let it fall away. And while obviously if I'm looking at you, I still see how beautiful you are physically, but it doesn't matter anymore. Like I see, you allow us to see through that and past all of that. So the rapping becomes almost inconsequential. And it's really awesome to watch.
Oh, that's so touching. That's so nice. And that I feel the same way about you. I mean, I think you're stunning and I love watching everything that you're doing. And yeah, well, we've been talking for a little while, but I want to actually ask you this one last bit because it kind of rounds out what we've been recently kind of talking about with with the strike and all that stuff. And I want to hear your thoughts on like how important art is to the world, because obviously I can preach all day long about it, but like hearing from another artist, because you are a writer, you are a producer, you are an actor, you are a makeup artist, so you understand how that all kind of impacts people. And so I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I think that without trying to get too philosophical and deep, this is the truth of me. My ethos is kindness. It just is. And it's not about being nice. It's not about being sweet. It's not about being a doormat. When I speak of kindness, I'm speaking of that the thing that motivates you to make those choices throughout every day, to not give the slightly snarky response, or to not shoot the slightly demeaning glare at someone, or just those little moments that aren't a big deal. I'm not talking about being evil. I'm talking about just those little, because there's a scripture that says there's little foxes that spoil the vine, and those little bitty moments every day, making that a priority, making kindness a priority, the quiet power, the power to have the discipline to choose to respond to someone who is unkind to you with kindness rather than in kind. And I say that to say that's what art is to me. And the through line of kindness doesn't have to be family fare. It can be a thriller, it can be a horror film, it can be an action movie. But the through line of the recognition, the appreciation, and the embracing of our shared humanity is what makes art universal to me. Whether it's visual art or music, a piece of music, or what we do as actors, it's healing, it's therapeutic, it can trigger and incite the most beautiful eruption of emotions, of joy, of pleasure, of elation. And it can delve into the deepest, darkest parts of our pain and activate that reality and heal it at the same time. And then beyond all of that, it's just fun. It's just fun. It's such a gift to have any sort of ability to do anything artistic ever, whether you're cooking a great meal or a beautiful meal, or you're composing a piece of music or singing a song, or writing something like, when you write your screenplays, I think, don't you write poetry too?
I have in the past. I'm on screenplays.
Yeah, I remember knowing that. Any ability to do any of that, for me, it's just a joy. It's just a blessing. And to be able to share that with the world is the ultimate gift. That's where the gratification comes back, and the appreciation that I think we all, whether we want to admit it or not, we need it and we want it. But there's also a personal gratification to just have the ability to create something. And I think that's where it supersedes race, it supersedes ethnicity, nationality, it supersedes any kind of age demographic. You could stand a Muslim and a Christian and an agnostic person and a person who doesn't even know, all in a line, and play a beautiful piece of music, and they can all enjoy it. You could stand Republicans and Democrats and undecided, gay, straight, male, whatever, and everybody can come together around. I'll use the song that comes to mind is Michael Jackson's song, Heal the World. And I've seen people from all walks of life just, enjoy it. And for me, that's the thing. It's the unity that it creates that supersedes our, often unwarranted, really, desire to be separate. Yeah, it was a long answer, but art is important to me. So yeah.
That was very powerful. I had chills like at least 3 or 4 times while you were explaining that. That's amazing. Well, oh my gosh, Silvia, thank you so much. I loved talking with you and hearing everything that you had to say. It was so beautiful and so powerful. And please share with our listeners and our viewers how they can reach you, and if you have any website, social, stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. So it's really easy. My nickname is Punkin, not Pumpkin, but Punkin. Punkin. So all of my social, everything is like my website is punkinstudios.com. That's it. And once you go to the website, my link tree is in there to all of my social media. And so, I could list it all right now, but it kind of, you could maybe put it in the show notes, but the main hub is the website, and it's punkinstudios.com.
Perfect. Yes, please check that out to all the listeners and the viewers. And as well, please check my website out as well. It's NicoleBurgessMarsh.com. There you can find all of my details and socials and links and all that. So yeah, you can access that way. And this podcast will be on the Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I've got all my other guest episodes there, so please check that out, as well as YouTube. This is where the video will be. So if you are watching, you already know this, but if you're listening, you can watch the visual as well. And once again, Silvia, I thank you so much. I'm so happy I got to see you and speak with you. And I can't wait to see all the new projects you have coming up on social media. I'll be checking you out. And, yeah, so thanks again for listening. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.